Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1:02 p.m. and I am Richard Burke, Executive Director of the Western Liberty Network. And this is the latest in a weekly series of trainings provided by Western Liberty Network to anyone who wants to join in. A couple of things I want to make clear. Western Liberty Network is a 501c3 organization, and as such, we do not oppose or support any candidate, any political party, any ballot measure, or legislation. Instead, we provide training to grassroots activists who want to make a difference in their communities, engage in their local democratic processes, and of course, whoever wants to join in the training is welcome, and they are free to use the training in any manner that they desire. That is what Western Liberty Network is about. Now, sometimes our guest speakers and participants will make partisan statements. That sometimes happens, but none of that is to be construed as reflecting the opinions of Western Liberty Network. So with that, I'm going to share the screen now. I'm going to share the screen of Western Liberty Network. I always do this. If you go to westernlibertynetwork.org, and very soon we just got control of westernliberty.org and westernliberty.com. So very soon you'll be able to type a shorter domain name and get to this website. But this is our current homepage. And as you see, we have another conference coming up. This is a little bit smaller conference than our annual conference, but it will be on March 26th in Klamath Falls at the Running Y Resort. We've got good sponsorship for this, so it's only $39 with lunch. And so I advise people to come and take a look at it. You can download the agenda by clicking here. You can call the hotel. The number is provided here, and you can reserve a room. It is a gorgeous resort, very much a resort community like Sun River is in Central Oregon, but it's a beautiful place. And if you want to get some information, learn some things, you can do so at this conference. Other things are available too. Like if you scroll down, you will see the trainings that will be provided in upcoming Saturday sessions. For example, this is the training that's being provided today. Just click on here, as you know, because you've logged on already. And then if you scroll down, you will find past events and resources related to those past events. For example, at our annual conference, the speech by Dennis Linthicum and Christina Soltis are here. You can listen to them. If you scroll down further, there are more things. One I would really recommend is down here. If you are following the Ukrainian battle right now, you might want to click on this link. This is Andrei Ilyaronov, and he is the former senior economic advisor for Vladimir Putin before he defected and came to the United States for freedom. He addressed the Western Liberty Network conference 3 years ago, and his speech is right here. He talks a lot about constitutional rights and freedoms, and you know, people would not go home. They would not let him leave. His speech was so good. So I really advise that. And more things are available down here. Other speeches from presentations are also available. Steve Moore here is an example of one. You know, we try to make sure that our conferences contain things of value that are available to people beyond the conference itself. If you want to, you can get training resources by clicking on the training tab, and you will see a series of training documents you can download. They're designed to be provided along with live training sessions, but they stand on their own as well. And if you scroll down a little farther, you'll be able to look at videos of our weekly training sessions. This is one of those, and this will be posted by the end of the day today, so people can look at these, they can view them, they can share them, do whatever they want. None of our material is copyrighted. This is all about getting the information out. So we've got a year's worth of these trainings here. I provide a number of the trainings, but we have guest trainers that provide them too. Here is one guest trainer, Ilya Aronov, who I mentioned before, did a weekly session for us. And it's just incredible what's available free of charge to anyone who wants to access training and resources on our website. And if you decide you want to make a tax-deductible contribution to Western Liberty Network to help to keep our lights on, you can click on the Support WLN tab, where you can use PayPal or your credit debit card to make a one-time donation or an automatic monthly donation, which we love because it helps us to have regular budgetable amounts of money that we can use to work in the field. So we're going to be doing a lot of work in the field, and this is good. So with this, I'm going to stop sharing. And before I go forward, are there any questions about Western Liberty Network or our activities before I begin? Okay, I don't see any, so I guess I've been clear. I'm going to send up a file that you can use to follow along with that relate to today's training. And so this is going to be candidate assessment. I'm sending it by way of the chat window. So if you want, you can download and print this organization. And if you feel other people can use this training, go ahead and send it to them by email or social media or whatever you want to do. So this is a session on assessing yourself as a candidate. This is for people who are thinking about running for local office or getting appointed to an appointed office. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. When Benjamin Franklin said that they gave us a republic, it is up to us to keep it. That was a challenge to us. That was a challenge that we step up and we actually take responsibility for our own governance by governing ourselves. And that means that we need to be the ones, the people who run for these local offices and, you know, govern our communities, be a self-governing society. And so this self-assessment guide is designed to provide some tools that you can use to decide if you should run for office, and if so, what level of office you should run for. And also, if you know somebody who might be thinking of running for office, you can give this information to them along with whatever tips you might glean from this training. I like interactive sessions, so if there's something you want to add, a comment or a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and interject, interrupt, do whatever you need, throw in whatever you want. And when you're done speaking, just remute yourself so we don't have audio feedback issues. But please feel free to participate in any way that you wish. Unless you are running unopposed, which you should do if you can, you will increase your chances of winning if you observe the tips outlined in this training. Most local nonpartisan offices like Park Board, Rec Board, Fire District, Fire and Rescue are up in odd numbered years. Like they'll be up in 2023, 2021, but there are some that are up, particularly school board positions, county commission positions, city council positions, which are up right now in 2022. And in Oregon, the deadline to file is March 8th to be on the ballot. Washington has another deadline. I don't know off the top of my head what that is, but it's important that you go through this process that I'm going to describe to you before filing. But make sure if you're going to run, you're going to file soon. The first thing I like to ask people to do is to assess what position they should run for. I will tell you that there are a lot of times when there are people who are just alight with the idea of freedom and liberty, and they want to run for office, but they shoot too high. There are people who do not have networks of donors, they do not have networks of volunteers. They, you know, haven't done a lot of community service in some cases and whatnot, and they decide they want to run for Congress or the United States Senate or governor. There are candidates of this sort that are running in all of these races right now. And I advise people not to do that. They often believe that, well, with these great ideas, I'm going to catch fire. Yes, I don't have a professional campaign staff. And yes, I don't have a lot of money. And yes, I don't have a network of donors. But these ideas are so good that once I start talking about them, my campaign is going to grow and it's going to snowball and it's going to, you know, take on a life of its own, and I will have a real chance to get elected to this office. Now, I will tell you that on rare occasions, this happens, very rare occasions. For example, there was the gentleman who spent $100 and some, a trucker who was elected to the New Jersey state legislature against an established politician. These things do sometimes happen, but they almost never happen. They are all anomalies. And so it's important that people not shoot too high, that they think about, they assess themselves as a candidate. We're going to go over that assessment in a little bit. And once that assessment is complete, they decide, maybe we shouldn't run for Congress. Maybe I should run for something else. Maybe I should run for school board, city council, state legislator. It's important not to shoot too high. You can learn a lot. There are a lot of reasons to do it. But if you want to actually win the election, you need to make sure that before you run for high office, you have the requisite infrastructure and contact networks to be able to pull it off. Another one is qualifications. When it comes to local nonpartisan office, or even state legislative positions or county commissioner positions, it is not as important that you have a lot of prior government experience as it is that you have common sense. Most of the boards that look for candidates or look for people to appoint to other boards like planning commissions and such, most of them are just looking for people who have good common sense. Because what they need, they don't expect. When I ran for Tualatin Valley Water District and was elected as a commissioner, I didn't know anything about the water industry, but that was okay, because there are always people who can give you information and education about that. What they need from boards are good policy guidance. And usually, if you have common sense and you're open to good information and you're willing to listen and question your presumptions, you can be an excellent commissioner, city councilor, any of those things, even if you have no prior experience dealing with those kinds of issues. If you are qualified legally, 18 years of age, a lot of local positions don't require more than that, and residency. A few positions, as you go up the ladder, require residency for a period of time, and so on. But if you've met those qualifications, you are qualified. If you're running for a water board position, these positions never state must have 3 years of experience in water industry, or the same thing in fire and rescue boards, park and rec boards. What they need are people with common sense who are willing to be persuaded by quality information as it is presented to them, and who have a grounding in ideological principles that help them to craft the kind of society they want. If you have these things, you are qualified to run. So do not worry about that. One thing that is very important is family support. If you do not have the support of your spouse, if you do not have the support of key family members, you should think seriously whether or not you should run. If you do not have the support of a spouse, you being a candidate is going to be disruptive to your marriage. If you get elected, serving is going to be disruptive to your marriage. You want to make sure that you are on board. Make sure that your commitments to your children or whatever you have are such that you will be able to serve. Most of the time, local nonpartisan offices don't require a large time commitment. With my water board service and my local school committee service that I did over the years, it required a meeting of about 2 hours. It required preparation of about 4 hours. Sometimes there was another meeting of about 2 hours for some committee or some such thing. But I ended up spending about 8 to 10 hours a month doing water board stuff. For a lot of local nonpartisan offices, this is what the commitment is. Sometimes it's less. If you go up to city council level or county commissioner, it's more. It can be like a part-time job. But it's important that if you decide to run, that you have the support of your spouse, if you have a spouse or significant other, and that your family is behind you. It's really, really important. Otherwise, you're going to be in a situation where your family will be destabilized, your performance on the board will suffer, or both. And you don't want any of that, so make sure you've got your family support. Another consideration that you need to think about are financial resources. If you're going to run for office, what financial resources are you willing to throw into the election process? If you're running unopposed for a local nonpartisan position, you really don't need to worry about that. I do encourage people to run some kind of campaign, even if they're running unopposed, if only to give them, the candidates can give themselves experience in doing a campaign, interacting with constituents. And if they ask for people to help them with the campaign, they get experience working as a campaign staff. And if people are asking, why are you running any kind of campaign if you're unopposed? It's very good to be able to tell voters that, well, I am running unopposed, and I know I probably could get away with doing nothing, but I don't take these votes for granted, and I want to be engaged, with the electorate, and so I'm running a campaign. These things are all very good and can help to build a foundation for, the person, the candidate, to run for a higher office in the future, or have credibility if they support somebody else who's running for another office, or if they're supporting or opposing a ballot measure campaign. But how much money are you willing to spend on your own election? $500, $1,000, whatever it is. You're going to want to go over this with your spouse to make sure that this money is sequestered and that you can spend that money as you need to. Of course, if you form a political action committee, you can raise money from donations and offer an Oregon political tax credit. We cover that in a different training, but you can raise money if you want to, but you should always decide how much you're willing to invest in your own campaign as you go forward. Are there any questions so far? Okay, if you do have questions, go ahead and interrupt me. I'll go on to the next session or section. Are there any skeletons in your closet? Were you picked up for a DUI 10 years ago? Were you a 5-state axe murderer on a killing spree 20 years ago? I say that in jest, of course, but the point is, what is there in your background which, if exposed, could undermine your campaign? What I find is that almost nothing is fatal if you think about it in advance and come up with a way to answer it if it should arise in the campaign. For example, this is not an endorsement, but an example. Bridget Barton, who's a candidate for the Oregon, a Republican candidate for Oregon governor, she points out that she has had a problem in her life with alcohol. And so she opted to preempt this by raising it as an issue when she launched her campaign. She said, I've overcome many things in my life. One of them was alcohol, and I went through this process. And by bringing it up in advance, she largely was successful in neutralizing it as an issue. If there are other things in your life, you don't necessarily need to bring it up in advance or bring it up at all. But if you take inventory of whatever skeletons you might have in your closet, you can think about, if it comes up in a campaign, how will I respond? That is much better than not preparing anything and making it up on the fly or off the cuff if it should arise during the campaign. Monica Webby, who is a friend of mine, she ran for United States Senate on the Republican ticket. She had sort of a domestic dispute with a ex-boyfriend of hers where the police were called in, and she didn't tell her campaign staff about it, and the donors didn't know about it. And when the issue came up in a City Club of Portland debate, she didn't know how to handle it, and her staff rushed her out of the event, and it ended up destroying her campaign. This is what happens when you have things in your past that you don't have ready answers for. Now, the good news is that if you're running for a local nonpartisan position, these issues very rarely come up. Oregonians generally have a very dark view of people who conduct negative campaigns against others for a volunteer position. By and large, most of the nonpartisan positions, Water Board, Fire Board, Soil and Conservation District, Cemetery Control Board, almost all of these are volunteer positions. And the good news is that most Oregonians have a very dark view of people who conduct negative campaigns or try to raise skeletons of people who are running for volunteer positions. It's a whole different ballgame for those who are running for United States Senate, governor, those kind of things. Anything's fair game these days, it seems. But Oregonians still think that if someone is willing to volunteer and put their hat in the ring for a volunteer position, that it's wrong to beat them up. It happens very rarely. It does occasionally happen. It happened to me once when I ran for re-election of my water board position in 2015. I faced a negative campaign where my opponent spent $20,000 against me. And Oregonians responded as I would expect them to. They thought it was dirty. They thought it was wrong. There was actually, they had me on the Mark and Dave show to talk about this. And although they spent $20,000, I spent zero, and I still won 60% to 40%. Newspapers who never endorsed for these races endorsed me because they were horrified by the negative campaign that went out against another candidate running for a volunteer position. So if you are thinking about running for a local nonpartisan position and are afraid that things might come out, my advice to you is to simply think that it's very unlikely that there will be a negative campaign waged against you, but think about what campaigns could exist. So if it comes out, you've got an explanation, something that's ready to go that'll neutralize it. So make sure you do a good inventory of yourself, and don't be intimidated. Please do not be intimidated. You see sometimes public officials sitting behind a dais. Maybe there's a big symbol of, scales of justice or mountains or something in the back. These are all symbols of our self-governance, but we are the ones that govern. And many of the people who hold positions, particularly local nonpartisan positions, are just folks like us. And this is a beautiful thing about this country. And it's key to the concept of our self-governance. So do not be intimidated by the prospect of running for office. Do not be intimidated by the process of running for office. There are things to consider that I've gone over, and I'm not suggesting that this is an exhaustive list of considerations, but it's a pretty good list. And if you meet the legal qualifications for an office, you are qualified. So do not be afraid to dive in and take a hand in your own personal governance. Are there any questions before I go on? Okay, folks are quiet today. Okay, that's fine. So I've got this little questionnaire, and it's on the second page of the document that I sent you in your filing. And this allows a candidate to take inventory of themselves as a candidate, not as a person. Nothing in this assessment is meant to be a personal judgment on someone's value as a human being or a moral judgment. It's simply, as a candidate, what are some of your attributes. So bear that in mind as we go through this. And the first question I ask people to present themselves with is, my best 3 personal assets as a candidate are 1, 2, and 3. Now, not your best personal assets as a father, a mother, or as a person, or as a friend, or as a worker. It's your best 3 personal assets as a candidate. They might be things like, I am a good speaker. I know lots of people in my community. I'm well connected. I have money that I can spend on my campaign. I know lots of people with money who can contribute to the campaign. I have good familiarity with the issues related to this campaign. Whatever they are, what are the 3 best personal assets you have as a candidate, underscoring as a candidate? And the next question, of course, is the corollary of that. What are my 3 greatest personal weaknesses as a candidate? They might be things like, I am a very poor public speaker. I don't have any money. I don't have any experience in this area. Whatever those things are, you write down your greatest strengths, your 3 greatest strengths as a candidate, and your 3 greatest weaknesses as a candidate. 3, these things in my personal background will be campaign assets. For example, if you are running for a city council position or a county commissioner position, or if you're applying to be part of a budget committee, if if you have experience as an accountant or a bookkeeper, that is something in your background that will help you. If you have served in the military, that is something that might help you. If you have done won a particular award, you have a particular degree in education that's relevant to the position at hand. Whatever that is, these things are my greatest campaign assets in my background. And the corollary of that is, of course, these things in my background will be campaign liabilities. Maybe you've got 15 divorces, maybe you've been picked up for drunk driving 10 years ago, maybe you've got whatever it is, you were dishonorably discharged from the military, whatever it is. Look at yourself from the perspective of an opponent. What would be the 3 things in your background that would work against your election, and go ahead and write those down. 5, beyond what I can personally control, these 2 factors will work in my favor. There are a variety of things. If you are a conservative, and take a look at the voter registration of the district you're running for, and most of them are conservatives, that's something that is beyond your control that will work in your favor. Those kind of things are very helpful. Or maybe there is an issue. If you're running for school board right now, a big issue is whether parents should have primary control over the direction of their children's education. That is something to do with the current political climate that you cannot personally control. Whatever those are, take a look at the environment that you live in, and beyond what you can personally control, what factors will work in your favor as you run for the office that you're running for. And the corollary to that, of course, is beyond what I can personally control, these factors will work against me. It might be that your opponent has more experience than you are. They're an incumbent. You're not. That's something you can't control. That's going to work against you. If the voter registration in your district works against your ideological origin, that will work against you. Make sure you write that down. All that stuff needs to be written down. And on the second page of the form I've provided through the chat window, you can actually write these things down. Number 7, here are 5 people who will get me elected, who will help me get elected. Write down who's going to help you actually win. People who will volunteer for your election. It might be your spouse, it might be a friend, it might be a coworker, whatever it is. Write down the names of people who can help you. And then, if you can, number 8, write down the names of 5 people who will work to get you defeated. Obviously, this might be the other candidates you're running against in an election. It could be somebody you know who you've worked with who is against you ideologically or for some other reason. Who is going to work to defeat you? And then finally, I guess not finally, but the next one is, here are 3 issues I will run on. Okay, write down 3 issues related to the office you're running for that you will run on. It might be financial accountability, it might be transparency, it might be response to the electorate, it might be the building of a new school or a new water treatment plant, whatever it is, or opposing a tax, whatever it is. Write down the 3 main issues that you care about that are relevant to the race you are running for. And then for each of those 3 issues, write down, here is one basic strength of each of the 3 issues listed above. And then what is one basic weakness of each of the 3 issues listed above? One strength could be something like, has popular support. It could be that there is money available for this. Weakness could be that there is no money available for this, that it would require a tax bond, or is controversial, divisive to the community. Whatever it is, write down the strengths and weaknesses of each of the issues that you feel compelled to run on. If you can think of more issues, fine. If you think, most of the time, because of the attention that people pay to the local offices, you generally don't want to highlight more than 3 issues. But if you know there are other issues that you will have to respond to that could be brought up by reporters or your opponents, it's good to have something in mind relating to at least a strength and weaknesses of each particular issue. And then finally, number 10, I will not do the following things, even if not doing them will cost me the election. This is where you are grounded in your core principles. What is it that you are not willing to do? If you think that taxation is theft, as I do, I would write down something like, I will not support the imposition of a new property or income tax, something like that. Or if you are a dedicated person on an issue like abortion or war, I will not support anything that encourages or discourages abortion. I will not support whatever it is, whatever is important and central to your heart, whatever is, a cardinal principle, as they say. What are you not willing to do to win the election? This is really important as it will keep you grounded. Candidates sometimes in the desperation to win will cut the moorings between themselves and their ideological grounding. And the risk is they stand for nothing. And if you stand for nothing, what's the point of running? You could have anyone in there. You could have a robot in there. You could put Alexa, or Siri in there. Make sure that whatever your basic ideological grounding is, that you highlight that in this questionnaire. So what you've done by filling out this questionnaire is you have done, it's not a political campaign plan, but it is sort of the prerequisite to writing a political campaign plan. And what I have found is that a lot of people who have gone through this questionnaire have decided, well, maybe I shouldn't run for Congress. Maybe I should run for, I don't know, cemetery control board. I kid you not, it goes that far. If you look at what your strengths and weaknesses are as a candidate, what your assets and liabilities are as a candidate, the conditions that you are running in that you cannot control, that you have to contend with. If you're talking about who's going to help you get elected, who will help to defeat you, if you highlight the 3 issues you want to run on and highlight the strengths and weaknesses of each of those, and talk about the things that are important to you, the lines you will not cross to win the election, it causes a lot of people to reconsider their approach, to run for a different office, or to run for another position, or to run for an appointed position. And usually that means they're going to take a more realistic view, and that means they're going to be more likely to actually succeed and win election or appointment to the thing that is there. Now, I'm going to send another file for you. We have a separate training on this, but I'm going to send the breakout on this. Let's see. Here it is. Oops, wrong folder. This is going to be on how to, the components of a campaign plan. Here it is. While I'm looking this up, does anyone have any questions or comments about this? About anything I've said so far? Okay, I'm going to copy this to desktop. And I'm going to send this up. I don't see the attachment, somebody said. Yeah, Lindsay, you came on after we sent that. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to resend everything. Candidate assessment, I just sent that again. So if you didn't get that before, you can now. And I'm going to send the campaign plan overview. I'm going to share the screen on that real quick. Here it is. Now, once you have gone through the candidate assessment that I've gone through, it's good to go through the components of a campaign plan. If you are running for office, you need to have a written campaign plan. If you do not have a written campaign plan, you really don't have a campaign plan at all. And so after you have gone through and assessed yourself as a candidate and you've decided what it is you're going to run for, look at this document, Components of a Campaign Plan, where you can outline campaign objectives. You can do an overview and analysis of your district. You can look at the tactics that you're going to use to achieving your objectives. Objectives are sometimes to win the election. Objectives sometimes, if you're in a hopeless district, are to build an organization or to build a network of media contacts or volunteers or donors. There's a lot of discussion about the campaign organization, who will be helping you and what will their jobs be and what will the lines of authority be, how decisions will be made. There'll be a campaign calendar. There'll be a campaign budget, and there'll be a fundraising plan, the way to raise money to accomplish what you want to do. And so that is another good training that is often helpful once you have assessed yourself as a candidate. But anyway, that is my training for today. I hope it has been helpful to you. And again, feel free to share any of these documents. And when this recording is posted, feel free to share this recording to whoever you think might benefit from it, if you know somebody who's thinking about running. I see a question from Lindsay. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Lindsay, and go ahead and ask your question.
Where did you attach the documents?
It's in the chat window. If you go to your chat window, you'll see them there.
Gosh, I still don't see them. Okay.
Yeah, somewhere on Zoom, there should be an option named chat on the menu below. If Zoom isn't occupying your entire screen, it may be invisible. You might want to maximize Zoom in your screen. And then at the bottom, I think you'll see a little chat icon. And from there, you can download the documents. Also, I want to remind you that if you are anywhere near Klamath Falls on March 26th, come to our conference. If you go to the westernlibertynetwork.org website, you can download the full conference agenda. It's only $39, includes a hot, beautiful lunch, not rubber chicken, a lot of good training, and we've got a group rate at the Running Y Ranch, a resort, which is a beautiful hotel. So hope that some of you can make it for that.
Richard, when we reach out to the Running Y, do we just mention Western Liberty Network to get that group rate?
Yes, that's right. Just call them, tell them you're coming for the Western Liberty Network conference on March 26th, and they should be able to give you a good rate.
Thank you.
Yep. You bet. Anything else? Okay. With that, I want to thank you all for participating. Those who might be viewing the recording after the conference is live, I want to thank you for viewing the recording. And again, go to westernlibertynetwork.org if you would like to see our other resources or make a contribution that's tax deductible. And with that, wish you the best, God bless, and have a wonderful day.